That's awesome.
Okay. I will call the UW Extension and Communication Committee to order. I certify that the open meeting laws requirements have been met. I'd like to entertain a motion to adoption of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Motion
I'll
by,
second.
motion by Todd, second by Don. Okay. Number three, we did that. Number four, adoption of the August 2024 minutes. I'd like to entertain a motion for the adoption of those.
I'll make that motion.
Adopted by Andy, any seconds?
Oh, yeah, I'll second. Sorry.
And seconded by Don. Okay, number five, reports. Agenda 5A, digital media update, please.
All right, I'll share my screen here. All right, so I got a short little presentation here today for everybody. So we wrapped up the summer. Actually, let me make this smaller so you can see the screen. So we covered 39 events in Trempealeau County this summer with a combination of staff and volunteers. So I feel like we did quite a bit of work this summer, and it was a fun and very busy summer. A lot of positive feedback from the community, and they seem to really like a lot of the things that we covered. Here's some pictures from some of the events. There's a variety of parades and the fair and some of the bull riding things and other community events. Just a quick social media update. We've got 530 subscribers on our YouTube channel and 915 videos posted on there. Facebook, we have 559 likes and 659 followers. And on our stream, we've had so far this year 2,904 views and 589 unique users. Some of the current projects I'm working on with the badges program with the Sheriff's Department, it's kind of like their DARE program. It's kind of a new revamped version of the DARE program, so I'm helping them make a little promo video for that to get people in the community excited about the DARE or the badges program. I think it's been really great working with Ross and Erica, so excited to get that video. We're pretty much almost done, but just wrapping that up soon. Helping Haley from Land Management with some of the field restoration stuff, just taking pictures and videos of some of the field washout that's been going on in some of the farmer fields. Doing a little informational video on Traverse Valley Creek with Rob Herman, just kind of showing that there's fishing and trout fishing throughout the county. So that's been kind of fun. That's what that picture on the far right is. And then we just wrapped up the Meet the Candidates series with Melissa Kono. That was really good, and we actually just posted that video recently. Some changes with our department. You probably saw some of this yesterday. So we are included, the media staff is included in the 2025 budget so far. We're set to switch departments and committees. So we're going to be under IT. And then our committee would change to property committee. So some demotions and possible wage changes. So I would be I would not be a department head anymore. And then Tim Robertson would be our new department head. Some job titles. So Danielle would go from production coordinator to media and content marketing coordinator. And then I would go from director of digital media to media specialist. So that's pretty much all I have. Do you guys have any questions? Let me stop sharing. Why can't I stop? Oh, wait. And I think that's all I have.
Okay, then we will go on to 5B, museum update. Anybody here from the museum? I don't see the ladies here. All right, well, we put it on just in case. Okay, C, educator reports. Yeah, who wants to start? Anybody? Doesn't matter. Adam, go ahead.
Maybe we can pass a couple this way and a few this way. So again, I'm a youth and families educator, split currently, 60% in the county, 40% as a state specialist. For youth education, I'm working with independents in Arcadia, school districts and their agri-science departments, and administration to write for a $350,000 grant that would be able to provide a full-time agri-science career pathways and juntos educator to support Spanish-speaking new arrival families in kind of understanding the career pathways available to them. Part of that too is kind of working backwards from there and making sure that they are succeeding in school and that they're successfully graduating. Graduation numbers is something critically important, and for every youth that doesn't graduate, hundreds of thousands of dollars are kind of costs come from folks who aren't able to graduate and attain successful employment. So that's a big part of the Juntos program, and this would go a long way. It's a 3-year grant cycle starting in February. So the hope is we'd be able to use that and leverage it for additional programming later. And we've already got a very strong Juntos team between myself, Andrea, and Monica Komorowski-Lopez, so we'd just be hoping to support and reinforce that. Along the same lines with that, the Arcadia Library has hosted some professors and scientists from across the state in teaching kind of career pathways and showing folks that there's lots of different options available to them for careers, and we were able to assist them with some of our language access equipment and coming and attending their programs and helping out with that with outreach. And then a main part is just kind of the STEM education programs, working with the 21st Century Learning Centers, which are the after-school programs. We have we've helped write the grants and support the grants both in Arcadia and Whitehall, and now recently Blair Taylor has received a 21st Century Learning Center grant, and I'll be working with them to do programming there as well. Family education, similar things, working in the Trempealeau County Jail with the reentry, parenting classes, different things like that. Providing diversion programs through Megan's program in the DA's office, virtual focus on fathers, so providing fathers a chance to meet with and work with peers. That's something that a fatherhood needs assessment that we conducted showed is that dads want to learn from other dads, and that's kind of one of the best ways that they can kind of connect and feel supported. So we've been working on building some of those. I presented, you see here at the bottom, the Fathers in Focus conference last Friday, where I both presented information about the good things that are happening here in Trempealeau County, and also got some resources from them as well to bring to here, most notably in kind of the peer support specialist realm, which is something that when it comes up in some of our justice system meetings, it's like, yeah, it happens, we contract out for it, but there isn't really any assessment on it, and I think there's a lot of good paths forward to have peers who've been through, whether it's the justice system, mental health, substance use, the best people to kind of hold other people accountable are people who've been through it and kind of see some of the tells and understand what they're going through. And it could be anything from substance use to having maybe children who have mental health issues and kind of coming together around those. So my hope is to kind of expand some of that, especially in some of my restorative justice work. So. And then Data Me programs for Head Start. So Head Start programs from across the county have reached out to me to provide kind of specifically the father specific programs that they hold to offer. And then a large part of my work is building capacity. So this summer I reported on having some of those listening sessions to give voice to community members in the Independence area for what they wanted to see writ large, but specifically around some sort of shared space or some sort of like physical community space. The grant was awarded, so more than $4 million will go to Independence to build a facility that'll meet their needs. And a big part of that is Extension being able to help do that needs assessment, give voice to the people, make a stronger grant, and ultimately submit that grant. I guess I've been going for a little while. Any questions about any of that so far?
Do they have the location designated for that?
No, no, I know they're seeking a couple of different locations, but no specific things set.
Congratulations.
Yeah, there are apparently like three different areas that are owned by the city of Independence that are under consideration.
Yeah, and I know that they've been reached out to Ashley Furniture as well. They've got a few facilities and locations there, so nothing's set yet, to my knowledge.
But it's within the city proper, I suppose.
Yeah, a lot of the discussions were, do they have it in what's considered the downtown or kind of the new town up towards where like the school is? Because there's a definite split, and it's kind of like a balloon on a string sort of issue between the two. And one of the big things that came out of that that community survey is like the walkability from downtown to the school is very difficult. There's not a lot of crosswalks. There's that hill there, and that was something that came out loud and clear from all age ranges. You know, you have the parents talking about parent stuff. You have the older group talking about older stuff, but they all said walkability on the main Independence stretch and making sure that there's a meaningful connection between the upper portion with the new school and Dollar General and all that to connecting it to the current downtown.
Okay.
And just some of the other things, we wrote for and received that $2,500 grant to support this folkloric dance group. So you see the picture down here. Andrea, myself, and Monica were able to go and support this newly minted 4-H club to present in Arcadia. And then the strategic planning for all these different groups. We've got, for the Alliance for Youth, we're bringing in mental health first aid and youth-led mental health clubs. It's called Raise Your Voice Through NAMI. It's something we're looking at for this spring. Resilient Trauma-Informed Communities, we're having a large community partner gathering, happens twice a year, and that'll be November 12th, and I'll send out the information for that as well. GLO Community Reentry Coalition, we've received $9,000 from local churches to support reentry for reentry needs, and a lot of that flows through myself, the jail, and other community partners. The CJCC is working on kind of child support, drug testing, and then forming a coordinated community response team, so some technical stuff, but it's good collaboration on that. The Restorative Justice Committee, we were able to offer a restorative traffic panel to the judge and the DA, which is people who are affected by OWIs or reckless driving. It might be a police officer, it might be somebody who either was injured or had a loved one who was injured in a traffic accident. Talk about their experiences, and the people who are offenders go to these and have to sit there and listen to the impacts of maybe not their actions specifically, but the impacts that actions like theirs caused and the harm that it caused. And that is part of the restorative process of understanding, rather than locking somebody away. Some of the folks that I talked to in the jail, well, maybe not the ones that actually attend programming, but they talk about some of their fellow cellmates, and there's a lot that are just waiting to get out. There's no real acceptance of the responsibility for what happened. So that's a big part of restorative justice. And then the Treatment and Diversion Oversight Committee, we submitted our $170,000 continuation grant to continue the what's called recovery court, drug court in other counties, and to support the diversion program. The Opioid Settlement Committee, we've been meeting regularly to create an RFA for groups to submit proposals for the use of those opioid funds. So rather than keeping it in a small circle and just whoever is there gets the money, making sure that it's an open process, that people are able to submit requests, whether it's Gunderson or a volunteer who is affected by it. And right here we see Malia Fox's name, and that is a mother whose child died of a fentanyl overdose. Or fentanyl poisoning two years ago. And a big part of Extension is raising up the voices of those people to places of power and making sure that their voices are heard. And that's exactly what's happening. She came to me and she said, I'm having a hard time getting into school districts. I'm having a hard time reaching anyone. And by connecting through Extension's connections, now she is on that opioid settlement. She's in 3 new school districts, presenting PARI, so like nationally reviewed curriculum, and sharing her story and letting young people and teachers and everyone know what's up, and that's coming from somebody who's been through it. So that's a big win in that. The Rural Unity Through Hope group is part of that Sleep in Heavenly Peace bed build, and then part of the Community Health Improvement Plan, so kind of chairing that mental health committee. I know that Stacy Klein's a part of that group. I think Dawn is also in there as well. So that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next? Any other reports?
I'll go next.
Okay.
So in your packet, you'll see this Trempealeau County Agriculture Impact form, and you can see where agriculture fits into Trempealeau County economically. So there's $920 million worth of economic activity in Trempealeau County. Thank you. $920 million of economic activity generated in Trempealeau County from agriculture. So the top industry is poultry and eggs. Trempealeau County's number 2 in the state for poultry and egg production. Milk, 94.5 million on down the line there. Grain has increased over, well, about the last 10, 15 years. Now it's $60.7 million. 4,063 jobs in the county from agriculture. 96% of the farms are family owned, so that's a good thing. So everybody's anchored in the community. So what I've been busy with the last few weeks, it's really tapered down now, but the last few weeks was a lot of questions because of the low corn and soybean prices, a lot of questions of how do we divert corn intended for grain to livestock, sell it to livestock farms, dairy farmers. There's some of that so that they don't have the expense of combining and drying. They can just chop it. Their neighbor can use it for cattle feed. So that I fielded quite a few questions about that. Earlier in the summer, because of the wet spring that we had, they had it even wetter from Neilsville east. Different soils over there, a lot of clay soils. Here we've got hilly topography, so we drain. We've got sandier soils, so that drains. And we didn't get as much rain as they had over on the east. But a lot of farmers here have plenty of hay, so they're trying to move it to the eastern side. So I just directed them to, Extension has a website called Farmer to Farmer, something like, just a seller site that they set up. So directed them to that. And then also I've got test plots out there. There's one in Buffalo County with poultry manure on corn, looking at nitrogen rates on that. That will be harvested here soon. Friday, the plot in Jackson County with hog manure on corn will be harvested. I tried to get a plot going here in Trempealeau County, but the farmer, we just couldn't come to agreement on the protocol that would pass under this grant program that would pass muster for that, so we did not get one going in Trempealeau County. But so then the information from those plots will feed into my winter educational programs. There's other plots around the state that will also, I'll use that data. So putting together winter programming now, winter meetings and that sort of thing, talking to partners and venues and that sort of thing. Also in September, so I made the state paper there. We had, this is an ag review paper. Myself and Sherry Schwertz, she's a ag water quality person with Extension. We had a meeting over in Wamandee about soil test phosphorus levels. So phosphorus, as we all know, is the most limiting nutrient in surface waters. When we introduce too much, we get algal blooms, like if you've been past Lake Henry and Blair, that got quite ugly this summer. So there's been a lot of work in the last 20, 30 years of increasing the number of acres of no-till in the driftless area here, which is great because it greatly reduces soil erosion. what we found is that we can get a lot of soluble phosphorus running off in clear water. So you can look at the water coming off a landscape, it's clear, we don't have clay, sand, silt in there that's gonna fill up our streams, but we've got a lot of phosphorus in there because we get phosphorus stratification in the top couple inches of soil and no-till. Nitrogen, potassium will move around in the soil more. Phosphorus is bound so tightly to the clay and organic matter fractions in the soil that it just stays where it's put. So this program is going to test the top 2 inches of soil and then the next 4 inches down and see how much stratification we're getting in those fields. We're going to look at no-till without cover crops and no-till with cover crops to see if there's a difference. Are we making it worse with cover cropping or are we making it better? And then how can we mitigate some of this stratification that we're finding, that we think we're going to find? And so that's part of a statewide program. There's 4 people signed up for that. There's a half a dozen in Trempealeau County, and we've got some in Jackson County signed up for that program also. So we'll be testing that as soon as crops come off. Crops are real dry now, so as you've seen driving around, there's a lot of combines and stuff moving around, so we'll be busy out there with that. So, any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. So, you know, farmers have been around for many, many, many years. So do you do these kind of tests every year to figure out different things? Or these tests change every year after you find out the results of a certain test? How does it work? I mean, because they've been farming for years. So how do these tests?
So the standard recommendation for just routine soil sampling for fertility management is every 4 years, okay? And then you can see if your levels are increasing or decreasing. Now, this intensive sampling, you know, looking for that stratification, that will be, I'm not exactly sure, I think that's every 4 years also. So they'll come back and they'll redo that again.
Okay, so our goal is to see every 4 years or every 2, whatever the case may be, if things have changed from one test to another.
Right, right. And then the farmer will document, hey, I did tillage on this field in the meantime. Now here's where it is. So, you know, one problem we have is the farms, a lot of the farms in this area, the barn and the buildings are in the valley and half of their fields are up on the ridge or vice versa. Well, it's hard to get that manure in the middle of the winter from the top of the ridge down to the valley, you know, especially back in the day when we had the old Farm All H. And, you know, now, you know, big farms get a bad rap for some things, but now, you know, you can lay one of those pipelines out and you can pump, you're only limited by the number of engines and pumps you have to move that manure. So one farmer who's in the program over on the very far end of Traverse Valley, he pumps it about 2 miles up the ridge and around, so he's able to get that manure, you know, spread out and spread around, so. Your dog found it? Okay, all right. Well, dogs need entertainment too, so.
So do they just keep the pipes out there, or do
No.
they lay
No,
them out?
they roll up, actually, it's a hose.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so just like the one coming up here from Arcadia, they have a hose from I mean, it looked like
Yep.
2 miles of hose.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's what that hose is. I thought it was something with construction, but now you informed me
water.
what that is.
They usually lay them like along the ditch or something,
Yeah.
and then the hose hooks to the tractor, and there's some type of tool on the tractor, and the hose that hooks to the tractor is flexible, and that
Okay.
can move
Makes
around. The
sense.
hose
Like-
that's laid
yeah.
in the ditch is quite solid.
Because like I said, I have some farming background too, and I know the tractors have all sorts of attachments that can go to them.
Right.
So they've gotten fancy nowadays.
They've gotten
But they've
fancy.
gotten a lot more expensive too on
Yeah, they have. Oh, yeah, yeah. It's
Cool,
pretty
thank
easy,
you for
half
that
a million
information.
or a million for
Yeah.
a tractor.
Your edge
Yeah.
bulge out.
Right.
Okay, I'll go next then. So, you have in your packet this beautiful little report, numbers, microphones. I have my little report. So every year, I call him our wizard behind the curtain, Mike Ferry, gives out these reports on what 4-H Online did in the last year. So I liked, when I saw these numbers, because I saw them just before
well, not just before the meeting, but like last month, I always look because I always hear people say, well, COVID, that affected youth groups, right? If we look at some of these numbers, we did not get hit very hard on losing members during COVID. So, because if we look at on the first page, it'll say youth total populations. The 2019-2020 year, yes, that's when COVID hit, but we had a lot of people enrolled because right now our enrollment starts September 1st up until August 31st. So I can pull up the numbers right now, but we have 100 youth enrolled already, so that wouldn't have changed. But we didn't really lose members. We just went down a little bit and now we're going steady. So if you want to talk about any more of these numbers, we can. I figured this would be a good thing for you guys to look at and see.
I do see even at the height of COVID, you dropped a little bit, but I would have thought it'd been a lot more. I'm pleasantly surprised that you didn't have a major, that's encouraging.
It is. And the nice thing also about this is this also tells you about like our volunteers and how many volunteers we have and how many hours they're putting into the program. But we can also look at demographics, comparing like our county demographics to what our enrollment is. And Trempealeau County has an 11% Hispanic Latinx population, so we have to think like should our program should be reflecting that, and it is starting to reflect that because of the work that Adam was talking about earlier. But I can also say last week, Monday, I had gone to our Grupo Folklorico, which is the Latinx dance group. I went there to make sure that we could get people enrolled. I brought my computer, we were enrolling them. I also had paper copies. That group has about 40 youth in it, and that is at like one of the top 3 clubs we have. And this club, this is their second year being a club. So we've obviously found a need in one of our communities, and we're making sure that we're reaching it and we're giving people what they want. So I figured I'd just give you guys some numbers to look at because we all like numbers. Other than that, what I've got coming up next is I'm working on my open house, which is this Saturday. Anyone is welcome. I'm hoping, because we used to do in 4-H, we had a fall hayride that was at a volunteer's house, and that was a really great opportunity, but then COVID, as we talk about this more, kind of let it kind of got to the wayside because, well, we weren't able to meet, and then for a while it just wasn't feasible, and then that volunteer left the program because her children were out of the program. So I'm like, okay, well, let's bring something like this back. So I'm hoping that this can be a ongoing program to give people who aren't in 4-H an opportunity to meet with people who are in 4-H, but then also be another program for the whole county as a whole to come together and talk and meet, because I've gotten comments from members going, well, we only see everyone at the fair, and I like having opportunities to talk with other club leaders and club members. So I'm hoping that this can be a gathering space in the coming years, and we can keep going. So on Saturday from 4 to 7, we're gonna have a kickball tournament, which I need to figure out how to run a kickball tournament because I am not a sports person, so that's not my space. But we're gonna do some gourd painting. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Andy, for harvesting the gourds. And yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Could you email the committee a copy of that 4-H farm, that,
So I've actually put this in all of their or all of their mailboxes.
oh, for our mailboxes have them? All
Yep,
right.
I've been sticking a lot of stuff in committee members' mailboxes
Oh, that's good to know,
lately.
because I was just gonna say, because I'd like to try to make that if I can. That's good to know.
Yep,
Thanks.
and committee members are welcome because you can come out and see what we do. So other than that, we're doing enrollment right now, and I'm working on getting our charters and annual financial reports in. I'm only missing a couple of those, and yeah, we're doing normal fall things, getting started for the new year. And I mean, it's never not busy in 4-H, so I can't say I'm not very busy. I'm quite busy. But you guys have any questions?
Nope.
Perfect. No.
Okay. All right, I think that was everybody, right? Oh, yeah. 2 more.
All right. So I tried to just put together some of the highlights since the last time you all met, which was in August. Right now, it's election season. It's like my Olympics, so that's what I'm focused on. I did one election training a few weeks ago, but starting next week, I will train probably over 500 election workers. That I put in here 6 sessions, but it's now up to 10 sessions that I'll be doing. And I put together that curriculum. I work with county clerks across a couple different counties and the Wisconsin Elections Commission, and I put together the curriculum. I've repackaged it to really focus on the November election and what election workers need to know, how to count the write-ins that may be on the ballot, how our machine works, concerns like processing absentee ballots or voter registration, all of those really pertinent things. And so I put that together. I did one session in Jackson County a few weeks ago, but next week I'll train in a couple counties. And then I'm certified by the Elections Commission to teach a couple different courses, and one is for the chief inspectors. And so I'm offering one of those in Neillsville because there were some Wood County clerks that had asked for it, and then also in Trempealeau because there was a couple workers down there. So that's keeping me busy for the next couple weeks. I've also been on the road a lot this fall, mostly on the state's dime, at these towns association and village workshops. I developed it started as a webinar, but it was about all the duties that clerks have throughout the year. And it was really designed for new clerks, but I've had a lot of longtime clerks attend as well. And I did those presentations all over the state for a couple weeks with the Towns Association and Extension's local government education program, which I'm primary in. So I've seen, I think, all corners of the state. I've been to Beaver Dam a couple times. I'd never been there before, but I was through there. And I was trying to count the counties I've been in, and I'm pretty sure I was in 3/4 of the counties in Wisconsin this fall. My car needs an oil change. And also, I have a huge expense report that I'm waiting for the state. If you knew our state and reimbursement system, you would be sympathetic to me right now.
I heard a little about it the other day.
Oh,
It's
my
a
God.
pain. Just to get a little bit of money, you have to go through.
Yeah, it's horrible. I want to say more flavorful words about it, but we're on TV, so I can't. I've also been helping with voting in the jail. I helped with that a few years ago, just fielding questions that the jailer had when people wanted to vote. And so she must work overnight because I get those emails in the middle of the night from her. And sometimes I'm up and I respond to them. So I've been working with the Sheriff's Department on that. And then I've also been part of the Small Communities Forums, which is an event. I actually hosted one in Independence a couple years ago, and I really love the style of that event. It brings together groups and people and business owners from all over the state to focus on a community and what makes that community really special. And this year, they try to go to a new community. I think it's under 3,500 people. Every year, they've been in almost all of the counties in the state, just like I have. And so this year, they had them in Belgium, Mineral Point, and Adams. And so I was helping with that. That's put together by Extension, by the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, the Counties Association, Arts Wisconsin, which is Create Wisconsin now, and a couple, USDA, so a couple different groups, and it's really cool because it will highlight, like when I did it here, I highlighted downtown businesses, our Latinx businesses that we have in Arcadia, things like that. So I've been attending those. I was the keynote at one of them, and then a person from Minnesota Extension, he has this wonderful presentation on promoting rural communities because there's such this negativity like, oh, everybody's leaving your rural community because they don't want to stay here, instead of people want to stay here and what are you doing to make it welcoming. So I saw him twice as the keynote, and he's fantastic. So I was at that. And then speaking of community development, I have a really long day today. This is the start of it, but then I head to Fairchild. I'm helping the Wisconsin placemaking design team with a charrette that they're doing in Fairchild that was sponsored by a grant from the Chippewa Valley Realtors Association, who I found to be an incredible partner. they've asked me to do some events with them, and then they gave a grant to the Fairchild community to do some placemaking. And the colleague that's leading that, he's the one that had done my fairgrounds plan in Clark County, and he does a wonderful job. And so from today till tomorrow night, we will redesign 2 different areas in Fairchild. I don't know if you've been to Fairchild lately, but we will redesign 2 key community areas in Fairchild using his background in land use planning and architecture. Like, he'll draw up plans. And we do this with input from the community today. We'll draw up the plans between tonight and tomorrow, and then we do this big community presentation. And so I've helped him with these events in a couple communities. The most recent one I think I helped with was in Ellsworth, but he does a really neat job, and I was glad that he asked me to be part of his team. And when
Do you know what areas in Fairchild? Because I'm somewhat
Yeah.
familiar with that community.
Okay, so you know where that Veterans Park
Yep.
thing? That is one, and then there's that area that's right next to the Historical Society where there's the Chat-A-While. It's like this little tiny shelter and like a bench, and it's a cool place, but we're gonna revamp it a little bit, I
It's
think.
cool because
So-
like I kind of grew up in that area, so I'm glad to see my hometown area get revamped. So
Yeah.
it's amazing, little pride there. So
Yeah, years ago, I did a USDA grant with them, and so I was happy to work with them again. And the Realtors Association had asked that I be involved, and then they had the purse strings, and then somebody from the Planning Association had asked, because Fairchild's like right between my two counties. I mean, it's right on the border of Clark. It's not far from Trempealeau, so it kind of pulls some interest from all places. So, but when we were organizing this meeting for today, the tagline on my colleague's email is on the Wisconsin idea, and I thought it was maybe worth revisiting with our committee. I know when you first became committee members, Pat did kind of the here's extension and this is what it means, but the Wisconsin idea is what really drives our work here and is why we are here, and that is the University of Wisconsin's direct contributions to the state, to the government in the forms of serving in office, offering advice about public policy, providing information and exercising technical skill, and to the citizens in the forms of doing research directed at solving problems that are important to the state and conducting outreach activities. So a lot of times we hear that with the Wisconsin idea that university research should reach all corners of the state. And I always counteract that with, I also believe that what happens in rural communities should also influence the research at the university. So I feel like that's why we're all here and doing the work that we do. So I just thought we were coordinating about today, and I saw that as his tagline. I was kind of inspired. So that's my day today. So then on top of election training, I'm also pushing a really big water testing program this fall. I managed to get a testing date with the UW-Stevens Point Lab, which is usually 9 months out, but they were able to fit me in November. And, I have this ongoing program at Dairyland in Arcadia, which I love that we have that location here. People can pick up a bottle, test their water, except that there's not a whole lot of participation. And I liken it to the theory of the deer hunting season, because when you have a very short window of time, people are like, I have to do this in this amount of time, like deer hunting. I only have this time to do it. The season's longer, people don't participate as much. And I assume that same psychology is going into my water testing program, because I will tell you, I offer this ongoing program. Here and there, people get a test. I do a targeted mailing to those more in the southern part of the county, because there's a lot of water concerns there. Targeted mailing to wells that had not either never been tested or not been tested for quite a while. And now I have over 100 responses to that. And because it's like, this is the one-day thing. You need to pick your bottle up on this day, you take your test, you bring it back, and that's it. And that's the only time you have to do it. So otherwise, I think people procrastinate, or they're like, oh, I'll do that sometime. And so I have this program. I'm hesitant to say this on TV. I initially had 125 testing slots at the lab, but because I've had so much response, I asked the lab last week if they could fit more in, and so I think I can fit about 200. But like Tammy will attest, calls all day long. I get emails several emails a day, even though the postcard is like, register online using this registration link or the QR code. And I would understand if people said, I don't do things online, I need to call in, of course. But people are emailing me and saying I need to register. It's like, or you could do it online. So I do not know what the mismatch is there, but huge response for that program, which will be next month. So I'm glad that people are testing their wells. This is a good time of year to do that. So, and then the other thing I'm trying to wrap up is I had a clean sweep event in my other county, and I got a bunch of grants, and now I have to do all the reporting for those grants. And I was very grateful to get that money. I got some money to cover the cost of recycling electronics, which is huge. And it was a huge, I mean, I filled, honestly, I think 6 semis full of electronics at that event. But I have to do all that paperwork and reporting at this time when I'm trying to train election workers and test water. So that's kind of what my fall has wrapped up to be. So, any questions?
All right, last up. So FoodWise's fiscal year ends at the end of September, and our new one starts at the beginning of October. So a little different than the calendar year, which extension and most things run from. So wrapping up the one fiscal year, getting ready for the next. We're gearing back up. We started our programming in schools. So we do a rotation of the second grade classrooms that are income eligible. So here in Trempealeau County, that means Arcadia, Independence, Whitehall, and Blair Taylor. So we, prepped our curriculum, our lessons. We've got Muriel on board. She's our bilingual educator. She's been here almost a year, which has been a wonderful addition to our team. So she's been working on wrapping up her onboarding and training process. That's why she's not here today. She's actually doing her final cohort presentation this morning, so she's making sure she's all prepped for that. So major check mark on the list to get that onboarding done. And that training piece check marked. So gearing up for our second grade lessons, doing lesson prep and planning. Wonderful to have a bilingual educator on board, because if we do have interpretation needs, we're able to say, hey, we've got this document, I've tweaked it a little bit from what came across from the state, just one statement, and we need to, revamp the entire pamphlet or handout. So it's been nice to share that task with her and ask for that interpretation translation materials. So I gave some examples of some of our parent connections, because every time we reach out to youth, then we're also sending home something to the families. And so we offer that in both languages. Also working on just scheduling. It's a big puzzle, which I love to do. So we got all of our second grade lessons. Over the 4 counties, we're in 6 different schools. So I'm at 3 of them, and Muriel's at 3 of them. So just getting that scheduled and all of those logistics figured out. I'm also actually starting to schedule our kindergarten lessons, which are for December, January, and February. It always seems like we're foot in, where we are, but I'm always what's next, and getting that planning process. I was asked to be part of 2 different statewide programs for FoodWise. So they asked me to be part of the planning committee for our in-person FoodWise event that happened at the end of September. So we had a South Region, North Region, and a Metro Region FoodWise meeting. And so I was part of the overall planning group. It was all about building relationships with our partners. And so I was part of the work group, and then also helped present a session at our meeting, which is always an honor to be elevated to that position, that they wanted my feedback and to be part of it. Another honor that I had in the last couple of months is they asked me to present at our all-staff FoodWise webinar. I had connected with Blair Taylor Schools for some policy systems and environment work, which is that bigger, broader picture of trying to make change. And so worked with the cafeteria staff, and they partnered with me and shadowed a lesson that I did at Blair Taylor Schools. And then the next week that I showed up, all of a sudden the lunchroom was filled with all of our different curriculum characters. And so it was a really neat partnership, but also it leads to then more opportunities for us to do things. Because when I teach the lesson, that's one thing, but when I go into the lunchroom, kids are calling me over saying, Miss April, look, I took broccoli today and I'm going to actually eat it, and so some of those connections to make it a bigger picture item is really big. So to be honored at an all-staff meeting to share that opportunity is a pat on the back for some of the things we're doing here. The other thing is we do adult programming in both Jackson and Trempealeau County, and so did a program at the end of September on healthy snacks. So in my report, you see a couple of visuals. I did a hands-on activity. Here's a bunch of food cards. Let's just come up with some ideas. And so, the typical ants on a log, celery, peanut butter, raisins, but just that awareness of let's try to sneak in some of those fruits and vegetables for our snack and less of the processed, prepackaged, I can't say it on TV like Melissa said, but those type of things. And so coming up with just alternative ideas to be able to think healthier for snacking. And then, just some of those piggyback things that come from that. In Jackson County, I write the 60 Forward newsletter article, which is geared towards older adults and seniors. And so it just paired really nicely with the lesson that I did for those particular audience members. So again, our whole focus in FoodWise is that low-income audience. And so reaching out in schools that are income eligible, reaching out to the parents, whether it's Head Start or school programming, and then those older adults at our housing units. Has been a good opportunity for us. Any questions?
Yeah, just looking at the peaches. I'm just throwing it out there. Canned or not canned? Or does it, because it's processed when it's canned?
Right.
But, so I just, out of curiosity, when you said that, I mean,
In general, we say canned, fresh, frozen, similar nutrient value. What we have to watch for is they love to add sugar to everything. So high fructose corn syrup, regular sugar, whatever that is. So I'm going to give you a perfect example. We're doing apricots this week for our food tasting in second grade. And so even Muriel and I just shopping for apricots. We've got apricots canned in heavy syrup, 26 grams of added sugar. Every 4 grams is a teaspoon. If you do your math, that's a lot of added sugar to something that's already sweet. Then we've got a light can. It's water and sugar. So you really have to watch for those ingredients. Are they adding sugar in places that aren't necessary to add sugar? Are they using corn syrup as a sugar enhancer? So if we can try to whittle down the spectrum of, obviously fresh, great, there's no added anything, there's no label, we got it, to that spectrum of canned is fine, but what are they adding to it? Same thing with frozen. They're taking it from fresh and freezing it, but what are they adding? Why do we have to add sugar to strawberries when they're already sweet? So checking out that ingredients list, which we're able to talk to with parents to have those decisions, like there are choices. And when we were shopping for apricots, because it's something that most kids haven't tried, they think it's a peach. We need to have some availability of choices. It's very difficult to find canned fruit without extra sugar in it.
not just the sugar, what about the preservatives that keep it fresh or keep it
Correct.
good? I mean, that stuff is just not
Yeah,
good.
and those conversations, I think, are rising to the top a bit more in conversation of, why is this ingredient in there? Is it a preservative? Is it because our culture is just so sugar loaded and they just put sugar in everything? So those conversations are the larger topic of let's make change. Why do companies have to add these colorings and flavorings and sugar to?
I agree. I
different
think
things?
it's like in their blood, as I'd say, that they can't help themselves.
Yeah, there's lots of conversation of the why behind it, but some of those decisions of saying there is some choice, but yet in some of our small rural grocery stores, there isn't. That's the only option that there is. So the one that we had to settle on was a light apricot canned that had water and sugar instead of the heavy syrup. So it's 6 grams of added sugar instead of 26. But those are the conversations to have with families, that we have to be really smart consumers and use our dollar to say we don't want the ones with heavy syrup. Let's leave those on the shelf.
There's healthier options out there.
Yes.
They're not completely sugar-free, there's healthier
Correct.
options.
So what along the
Always is,
spectrum
yep.
is better? There's always worse, there's always better. Let's move it, along the more healthier side. So very valid.
Why would you choose the natural apricot over canned?
So availability, right now apricots aren't in season, difficult to have in store. And so that idea of, canned and frozen can be an option, but we have to be really smart consumers. for
Yeah, the
nutrition.
healthiest, like I said, it's not 100%, but the healthier of the can, healthier is the
It's the
word.
money, I mean, it's
It's
just,
the- yeah, it's
everything
the money
fresh
too.
costs more money, and people can't,
Yeah.
right now, can't
Right.
deal with that, so.
Yeah, that's a big conversation.
It is, huge conversation,
And the awareness piece is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Because our dollar speaks.
yeah, it does, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, you just got
Convenience
to the heart
speaks.
of of why I do what I do.
It's
Yep,
all convenience.
yeah.
It's the
Thank you for
direction we're
asking that.
going, yeah. Awesome, thank you.
Okay, I think that was go back to my minutes. Still learning this computer after all these years. Okay, no other directors,
I
right?
just want one question, and of course, this is gonna go towards Becky also, but, and I know it's, just because you mentioned it, the young lady who, Spanish speaking, so she can let us know what people are talking about, is she full-time here at Trempealeau County? Or does,
Are you talking about Marielle with Foodwise?
Yeah. Is
Yep,
she-
so she's full-time.
Okay, all right, I just was wondering, being that she could communicate, if it's an option for our courts and stuff too. I'm just throwing it out there so I don't forget to ask that, but, because it costs so much money to have a
She wouldn't be able to
person.
cross.
I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, I just wanted to
I
let.
don't know how that
just-
works.
Yeah, I don't either, so I just want to put it out there so I wouldn't forget. So, let's go ahead and go forward.
Okay.
Yeah, Andy, I'm sorry, what was that you said?
Well, just a question about communication when it comes to our courts and stuff. Do we have to pay so much money for, what's the word I'm talking about?
Translators.
Translator to come in. And we have one here that's employed. I just didn't know.
When you
Yeah.
see the dollar amounts, you about want to
I
need a
just,
chair to
yeah,
paint
so I
out.
just was throwing it out there so I wouldn't forget when that came up.
Just as a topic, the translators for the courts have a specific test that they have to go through.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, and that
Okay.
is, it can be quite a limiting factor for
Okay,
getting new translators into that profession, yes.
gotcha. Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, and then I just know too from previous experience, like in healthcare, we've got staff who are bilingual, which is excellent, but they're, they're hired full time into a particular role. So then pulling them to do any interpreting is an addition to their full time work, which is not fair really to them either. So that's just, as far as using Mariella in a different way would be tough, I think.
Any other things pertaining to educator reports? Anybody? All right, next to our interim director report.
Yes, good morning. Thanks for the time this morning. Pleasure to be here. You may be thinking, wow, he doesn't look like Kristen. And yeah, I am not Kristen. So my name is Jason Hausler, for those I haven't met. I've been working with Kristen in support of the team here in Trempealeau County in the interim. As of October 1, we divided some duties. It is budget season, as we were all here last night for the budget conversation. Kristen is taking care of the budget conversations in her primary area, Area 6, as well as Pepin and Buffalo, and I've kind of taken on Trempealeau and Jackson. So just a lot of things to do here in budget season. So I only have 2 updates this morning to share with the collective. One, it's the search for our new area director. So yesterday we had final interviews. Unfortunately, our first search did not pan out the way we had hoped, and so we did a second search and had final interviews yesterday. Supervisor Adams was there for the candidates and the conversation. A lot of the team was there to weigh in on the candidates, and so I'm optimistic that by end of this week I'll be able to make an offer for the new area director. Which the question then is, when did they start? And so you would love to say yesterday they could start, but at a minimum of 2 weeks to transition out of their current position. Sometimes depending on the candidates, a month out. So we are aware of that. So I'm optimistic by maybe the budget hearing on November 12th and or the committee meeting in November, I'll be able to introduce the new person, or I'll be able to at least introduce them or announce them. May not be here on staff. So in the meantime, Chris and I are still continuing to work with administration and Becky and working with the staff here to make sure they have what they need in this interim. So really optimistic about what happened yesterday and bringing in a candidate forward. So the other thing that I just wanted to update the team on, or the collective on, is staff transition. So Tammy, unfortunately, and really excited for her, will be transitioning out of the extension office with a position with the clerk's office. So Kristen, I'll be working with Becky to determine how to move forward with that position. I know that was on the agenda last night as the transition of the full-time support position and extension to a half and half with the DA's office. And so we'll be working closely with Becky and HR to figure out how to fill that in the near future and long-term strategy as well. So there are things that will have to get done in the near future in support of the staff to do their work, but then also looking at what does that look like to fill that position long-term. So those are the two updates I have, but I would welcome any questions from the body.
Yes, if and when you do give the offer to whoever it is, could you send the committee members the email of who was offered the job when they accept it? It'd be nice if you could.
Yeah, once there's an acceptance, I can't do it when it's offered, but when there's a candidate that we have signed paperwork and we know a start date and those sort of things, by all means, yes, I'll let every committee in Area 9 know. Yeah, definitely.
It'd be apprecited,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep. Other questions? All right, that's all I have this morning.
Thank you for coming.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions from the committee members? Oh, or staff? All right. Set next meeting date. Are we monthly or bi-monthly now? December 17th, thank you. And I will miss you, Tammy, so.
Yes, I will truly miss everybody here.
You'll still be with the county, but you'll just be a different area, so I'm missing.
Yes, not by choice, not by choice, but I think it's a good move.
All right, yep. 17th. At the same time in the morning. 17th. 17th, 8:30 a.m. All right. Unless there's any other questions, we'll adjourn the meeting at 9:27 a.m. Thank you guys for coming.